I'm Chef Michael Montgomery from the Culinary School of the Rockies, back to show you a few very classic, basic ice cream sauces or just dessert sauces that you could use for a number of things. In the last segment, we made some ice cream. In this segment, I'm going to show you how to make a classic caramel sauce and a classic chocolate sauce for your ice cream. Let's start by making the caramel sauce, or at least get our caramel going. What I've done here is I have a nice heavy, use your heaviest bottomed pan. So I've got a good heavy pan here. I have 3/4 of a cup of white granulated sugar in the pan. I want to make sure your pan is nice and clean, no residue up on the sides, no dirt in the bottom of the pan. What I'm going to do now is give this sugar just a little bit of water. And I'm not even measuring here. I'm just adding enough water so that our sugar looks like wet sand. You don't even necessarily have to stir it. And I'm pouring really gently because I don't want to splash anything up on the sides of the pan. Anything that's stuck up on the side of the pan could most likely will cause our sugar to, it's kind of like a chain reaction. If anything crystallizes on the side of the pan, it'll probably follow the lead and the whole thing will crystallize, which is not at all a good thing when you're trying to make a caramel sauce. So I'm wiping down the sides of the pan with my wet, clean fingers. Some people use a pastry brush. I prefer using my fingers because I can actually feel if there's any sugar up on the sides of the pan. I want to get it off of there so I don't risk the chance of crystallizing my sugar. What I'm doing now is putting it over a high flame. If you want to accelerate the process, you can always throw a lid on there. I actually like to see what's going on. I don't use any lid. I'm just throwing it on a nice high flame or high heat, whatever it happens to be. Let it sit, don't stir it. If you're going to stir it, make sure whatever you're using to stir it is very clean. Again, any bit of dirt could easily crystallize that sugar. Your whole batch will be destroyed and you'll have to start again. We're going to let that go, and I'm going to take it to a nice amber color, or the color you think a caramel sauce should be before the next step. While that is going or turning to caramel, I have a nice amount of chocolate here that we're going to make a really lovely chocolate sauce with. So basic and so easy to make your own chocolate sauce. This is about a pound of bittersweet chocolate. I like a little pushing almost bitter but not quite bitter chocolate sauce. You could use whatever chocolate you like. If you like milk chocolate would work just fine. In this saucepan, I have cream and a little bit of dark corn syrup. The corn syrup, the only reason that's there is it's going to help keep that chocolate sauce nice and pliable. So when you pour the chocolate sauce over a bowl of homemade vanilla ice cream, for example, you're not going to turn that chocolate into hard crack, and you're not going to have a crack chocolate sauce. It's going to stay nice and pliable. This cream and the corn syrup came to a boil. You can just scald it. If it comes to a boil, that's fine. Turn it off the heat. I'm going to make sure those two things are nice and thoroughly mixed, and then all I'm going to do is pour it over my chocolate. Very easy way to melt chocolate is pouring hot liquid over your chocolate. Again, I don't need to use a double boiler or what is called a bain-marie because the liquid's going to do the job and I don't have to worry about breaking my chocolate. It's not in contact with any direct heat source. Easy way to do it. I'm going to let this sit before I go in there with my spatula and stir it. Don't stir your chocolate too soon, and that goes for any time you're melting chocolate. Avoid getting in there and ripping it around with a spatula or a spoon right away. Allow the chocolate to melt first, and then you can gently stir the chocolate. Taking a look over here at our caramel, first thing that's going to happen here is all the water is going to evaporate out of the sugar. So I put that water in to make it look like wet sand. The water right now is evaporating. Once that happens, the sugar will start to cook. It will be a syrup. It'll start to cook, and then it will start to change color as it gets hotter and hotter. You do not need to use a candy thermometer to make something like caramel. Caramel is going to go beyond all of those temperatures. If you're familiar with any of the candy making temperatures, it's going to go far beyond that, and we're just going to look for color. I happen to like my caramel on the darker side. It's going to be a more bittersweet caramel sauce that way. Some people like it light. So whatever color you like, you can choose. It's up to you. While this is turning to a nice shade of amber, a little darker than amber, I'm going to make sure I have some heavy cream ready. You know, we're making a caramel sauce, so we need some cream, of course. Cream is about equal parts. So I used 3/4 of a cup of granulated sugar. I have 3/4 of a cup of heavy cream here to add into my caramel once we get there. Jumping back here to this chocolate sauce, I see that those pistoles, or those little round discs of chocolate, have started to melt on their own. So I can now go in here with my spatula and start to stir. And chocolate is just such a beautiful thing. If you melt it and you don't get it too hot, it should look just like velvet. And this is looking just like velvet. So I'm going to continue stirring this until all of that chocolate is melted. If you run into a problem and you see that your chocolate isn't melting, so you ran out of heat, all you need to do is put it back over a little bit of simmering water. So you're going to put it back over a double boiler, and once in a while stir it, and you should melt it down and make it nice and smooth. As you can see, I have a few pieces of chocolate here that are not melted, so all I need to do is throw it back over a double boiler or over something hot until that chocolate melts. If you're good with your microwave, you could do that. I'm not very good with my microwave, tend to overdo it, so I don't like to put chocolate in my microwave. Some people do. Once you have a nice chocolate sauce looking something like that, you could always give it a dash of some nice high-quality vanilla extract, which I'll do. I'm not using a teaspoon, so that was about half a teaspoon. And that's all you really need to do. The vanilla is going to work beautifully with the flavor of the chocolate. A lovely chocolate sauce that will be waiting for my ice cream when it comes out of the ice cream machine. I have a nice amber color forming. I have not stirred this just because I don't want to risk the chance of crystallizing. And at this point in time, I'm just swirling. Instead of stirring, I am swirling. I'm going to reduce my heat because I'm getting very, very close to the point of adding cream. Caramel goes very fast at this stage, so again, stay on top of it. If you want to, you can pick your pan up if you want to play it safe. It will go from this lovely amber to a very, very dark, not so pleasant burnt sugar really fast, so be careful. And I'm going to push it here. I want to get this as dark as I can. It's starting to smoke just a little bit, which is telling me I'm probably there. I'm going to pull it off the heat, and I'm going to add my cream. Expect a reaction when you add your cream. This is incredibly hot. My cream is at room temperature, so you are going to have a bit of a reaction. Be prepared for that. It will probably seize up a bit, so you'll get a hard mass forming. That's okay. Give it time. It should dissolve and melt into what looks like a lovely caramel sauce. There's always that bit of hard cracked sugar on my whisk. If you let it sit in the caramel sauce a bit, it should be just fine and smooth right out. And if it's not smoothing out for you, you still have hard bits of caramel in that sauce, put it back over the flame, and the heat should take those bits right out. And this is looking just beautiful. As much as I want to dive in there and taste this right now, resist the urge. You will get burned. This has to cool down quite a bit. So I usually just let it sit. I will pour this into a steel bowl or something wide, not plastic, and let it sit out on the counter for about 20 or 30 minutes. And then if you're really you got some pressure to eat ice cream, throw it in the freezer or the fridge to cool it down so it doesn't just instantly melt your ice cream, although that would be really good. So we have lovely dark chocolate sauce and a classic caramel sauce for our homemade ice cream.